call this meeting to order. Friday, May the 17th, the morning agenda meeting. If anybody'd like to talk to us about any item on the agenda, fill out one of the green cards, give it to Mrs. Darrell, and you can pass it up so you can get up here and talk if you're not on the agenda. I'd like to give Mr. Terry here to say the prayer, the Eagle Hickman City Pledge. Stand.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in praying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Okay, get right into it. Mr. Kevin Burton, the candidate for the State Senate, District 25. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you have a full agenda, so I'm going to keep this pretty brief. I wanted to introduce myself and tell you why I'm running, and a little bit about it. I am the sixth of 7 children, born and raised right there in Lake Arthur, where I went to St. Maria Goretti School for all 12 years. My mother and father put all 7 of us through the Catholic school and then put all 7 of us through college, where I graduated McNeese in 1983. Had a short stint in California, and then I came back to the farm when my dad became ill. At that point, when I came back to the farm, that's where I came about doing all the service work in local, state, and national levels with regards to the agriculture industry, as well as my religious affiliations, education, OLI school in Jennings and Notre Dame School in Crowley, where I was chairman of those organizations, as well as still currently on the board of the Jennings American Legion Hospital, where I learned to be able to work with other people who might not have the same ideas and passions as I do. I've been on about 24 different boards and committees. Of that, I've been chairman of about a dozen of those. I was so excited to see that the president came here to highlight such a glowing example for our state and for our country of what's happening here in Cameron and in Calcasieu parishes. It's the $65 billion that has already been invested in, and of the $100 billion that's going to be going on. The problem is not so much what's happening here is what's happening to the rest of the state, which is why I'm running. We are continually on the bottom of all the good lists and the tops of the bad, and it's always been a problem for me. Whenever I moved away from to California, sometimes you learn more about where you're from than whenever you're here. And so what I've learned whenever I was over there was that we didn't have a good reputation. People didn't talk very well about us, and it's always bugged me whenever I moved back here in 1995, and to see us always on the bottom of the good list. It's always something that is I want to go and do and try to make a change. The U.S. News and World Report just came out this week for the 3rd year that they have done this report, and we ranked 50th. And so 48th in education, 47th in infrastructure, job opportunity, on 50th. So we send our kids to school and try to, in schools that are 48th, on roads that rank us on 47th. Then we send them to college, hopefully on the TOPS program that started out at $50 million and is now over $300 million, only to find that they can go to any one of the other 49 states and have a better opportunity at a job than we do. Again, remove yourself away from Cameron and Calcasieu, the rest of the state. Other than our present legislator, who has, I think will do and has done a good job for us, and I would love to be able to go and help Ryan. What has the current legislation done to get us off the bottom? We're still going to have the highest insurance rates for this coming year, or next to the highest. We're still going to have the second highest sales tax in the nation for the next coming year. We're still going to have burdensome regulations and an unfriendly business climate. What can we do and what would I like to do? Well, we can't keep sending the same people and expect different results. I'm a different candidate. We have an opportunity at this election that we'd spent right at 50% of the legislature can and will be new. If there's a new governor, I think we can chart a new course for Louisiana. I believe that there is a hunger to chart a new course with the legislators like Brian that I've spoken to and the ones who are running for this office. I believe there's a hunger to get us off of the 50th ranking year in and year out. It's time, in my mind, it's time for a fresh set of eyes and ears in Baton Rouge. I'm that fresh set of eyes and ears. I would love y'all's support and all of you here. I would ask for your prayers first, because I believe that's extremely important. I would ask for your support, verbal and otherwise. And then I would also ask for your vote, because at the end of the day, I have to have more votes than the other guys in order to go help Ryan in Baton Rouge. So thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, move on to number 4, the P-Core Group, legislative session update.
Good morning, Mike Michaud and Evan Boudreau with the P-Core Group. We're happy not to be in Baton Rouge today. The legislative session has 3 weeks left. It has to adjourn by June 6th. So it's been sort of a low-key year. As y'all know, the first 3 years of this session, the legislature and the governor were haggling over the budget and taxes and other things. And this year seems to be the budget's on a stable track. The House passed the budget out last week off the floor, 100 to 1. I think there was one dissenting vote. So the budget is now in the hands of the Senate. The Senate Finance Committee is deliberating and going through the budget schedule by schedule. The Senate floor will have the budget in a week or so. There's other issues that are going through the process. There's a sports betting, a couple of sports betting bills. That's kind of a new issue for the state, and how they're going to implement sports betting and how they're going to tax it. There was an omnibus premium reduction act bill that was actually Representative Kirk Talbot's bill that made it through the House but died in the Senate committee. That was a big issue that was promoted by the insurance commissioner to try to reduce our insurance rates. So that's dead for this session. Capital outlay, I know y'all have some interest in capital outlay, but I do want to report that your new representative seems to be doing a great job so far. He hit the ground running and is quickly making a name for himself in and around the state capitol. I heard him the other day taking credit for Donald Trump coming to Southwest Louisiana, and then taking credit for Trump promising a new bridge on I-10. So I said, we'll see if that happens. But no, Ryan's been doing an incredible job. He's on some very important committees. He's quickly figured out the process over there, as y'all know. He hit the ground running, but I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit more about what's going on during session. So, Evan, did I miss anything? But Evan and I are kind of y'all's ears on the ground over there. So if Ryan gets out of line, we're gonna be the people that get him back in line. So, without any further ado, let me bring up y'all's state representative, Ryan Bouillard.
He wants his little seat back.
3 minutes.
No timer, right? I promise to be brief.
Gonna what?
Promise to be brief.
5 minutes on the time.
First of all, it's so good to see a bunch of familiar faces, a lot of smiling faces. All you have to do is put me on the agenda and you pack the house. When's the last time you had this many people in a legislature meeting at 10 in the morning? I want to thank Mr. Michaud and Mr. Boudreau for attending today and giving you a brief update. Look, I got to be honest with you. There's not a morning that I walk into that building that I don't have a sense of pride, to come and do the work of our people in District 47. It is a privilege to represent you, and I know it's going to be difficult for you to believe this, but I've tried to be fairly quiet through the first half of session. I think I've tried to listen. I've tried to learn. It's killing me to be quiet, but I'm doing it thus far. We have a few things that I know are really important for us. We've always been focused on infrastructure in this part of the country. We've been focused on coastal. It's things that we've done in the past and we will continue to do.
And I'm pleased to report to the parish that, that we've supported some efforts on your behalf. There was a bill trying to redirect some BP settlement money based on the economic damages. That bill was debated on the House floor earlier this week. And although there were a lot of attempts to insert some specific local projects, there were two more serious projects that were settled on to be funded initially, one of them being the LA1, to complete the LA1 bridge between Leeville and Fouchon. We all understand what Fouchon means to the state and the country. And then a Highway 415 adjustment before you get to the Mississippi River Bridge in Baton Rouge. We also know what traffic is like in Baton Rouge. Those two projects really were state interest. We had some attempts to insert local infrastructure needs. And in lieu of every member of the House out of the 105 of us submitting a specific project for our districts, there was an amendment made to the bill to take a portion of the remaining funds of some, I think it ended up being $700 million over a 14 or 15 year time frame. There would be $400 million remaining after completing those two major projects. And we voted to support a measure that will equally distribute that remaining $400 million to each DOTD region in the state of Louisiana. And that is aimed at going towards infrastructure projects in all of our regions with no new tax. And I think that we have a very good case to make on what those funds should be expended on here in District 47. We have another, one of my bills. You know, I was always told to pick something easy for your first bill because they pound you on it. And of course, y'all know better than anybody, I don't listen. So I did not dedicate a highway bill. I did not do a license plate dedication bill. We jumped straight into the fire. We had a public-private partnership bill for DOTD to, again, try and get innovative and creative in funding infrastructure projects statewide, again, with no new tax. And so that bill, I'm pleased to report passed the House floor 94-0. It passed House Transportation with no opposition, and I was actually in Senate Transportation yesterday, and it passed 7-0. And so that bill will streamline the process for us moving forward on, we're going to go ahead and prepare ourselves in case the president either doesn't get reelected or forgets where Kalka shoe or whatever he called it is between now and February of 2020. So we're going to keep those mechanisms working. We're going to keep those instruments moving forward. My other bill that was filed is trying to protect a fund for the commercial fishermen that they developed back in 2005, 2006, where they filed litigation against foreign entities dumping foreign seafood into our markets. And so they actually won that litigation. But those funds, there are some fees that were generated on their own licenses. And there's about $100,000 there, and I'm working to have that money redirected to the Shrimp Marketing and Promotion Fund from the Shrimp Protest Action Fund. And those funds would be swept to the general fund, and the state could spend it as they saw fit. And I just think that wasn't fair to our commercial fishermen who actually assess the fees on themselves to have that pot of money there. So when it's moved to the Shrimp Marketing and Promotion Fund, which passed the House 96-0 and passed the Appropriations Committee, I think it was 13-0. We will be in Senate Finance either this upcoming week or the following. Haven't had a lot of opposition, so that is great. But those funds can be used to market our local seafood, to try and have some innovative projects through Sea Grant and otherwise on gear, so forth and so on. So that $100,000 will be better spent for the individuals who actually paid that fee themselves. Other than that, we have a bill we're watching, adjusting members of the CPRA. We're watching it very closely. There are some individuals who are trying to gain some support to increase the number of members on the southeastern portion of the state. So we feel we have some data behind us, the facts are with us. We're trying to game plan because we had, all of 5 weeks of experience, and we're dealing with some people who are very, very savvy. But we're always watching. We have some other efforts that may have come up. Representative Gisclair from Grand Isle is fighting for a bill to have restaurants list on a menu or have somewhere placed in the facility that they serve Louisiana or domestic seafood. That was a contentious bill at first, and then in true Baton Rouge form, one thing that's been difficult for me to adjust to, we will argue on an issue for an hour and 45 minutes, and then everybody will vote for it. And it just upsets me because, if you're that much against it and you're going to sit there and, just vote, vote your conscience. And I'll tell you this, even though Mike probably left some of those things out, I think I've upset probably both sides with some of my votes. I hope you realize that each vote I cast, you are in the back of my mind. The people are in the back of my mind. What would you want me to do? And so my first Ways and Means Committee meeting, I felt like I upset 40% of the room. And then after the second Ways and Means Committee meeting, I felt like I upset another 40% of the room. So after 3 Ways and Means Committee meetings, I pretty much upset everybody in the room. You get over it a little bit faster once you know everybody's already mad. So you just move on. You do what makes yourself happy and your constituents happy, and that's that. I could go into other specifics, but I'd rather entertain any questions that you have. It's good to be back in this building. It's good to see all of you. I can see that the organization that I provided to this establishment has already gone to pot. Y'all are in 3 different colors up there. I'm very disappointed in you all. But I am pleased to see no one sitting in my chair. That did make me smile. I got to admit. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Yeah, it's election year, colors mean a lot.
Understood.
Anybody have any questions?
I did.
All right, that's a good question. The payment in lieu of tax bill did make it through Ways and Means 13-0. There were 2 amendments requested from the Assessors Association that the author did allow on the bill. There was also an amendment requested by the governor's office and LED, which was also allowed on the bill. So Representative Abraham feels that the bill is in a decent position support-wise. It was supposed to be heard yesterday, but it requires a 2/3 vote of all the members. Thursday afternoon, sometimes people tend to leave. There were only 82 members present and voting, so that would have allowed for only 12 nay votes. And so Representative Abraham put it back on the calendar, and it should be heard either Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. There are 7 instruments currently filed that deal with ITEP, the pilot being one of them. And so there are a lot of people interested in local governments having a say. I've heard a lot of discussions. There was some hesitation in previous years with the pilot over the capacity of these locals to make those decisions. And with the last 2 executive orders from the governor's office, he's putting a lot of stock in the decision-making of the local governments through ITEP approving the exemptions or not. And so my point to people who have come and asked me, the same people who are entrusted with the ITEP approval process would be entrusted with the pilot approval process. It's a voluntary bill. It's a permissive bill. If a parish wants to pursue it, they may. If they don't want to pursue it, they are not forced.
House Bill
That's House Bill 76 and 81. There's a constitutional amendment with a companion revised statute. We're also monitoring some things like capital outlay reform. You know, we haven't been successful in the past with receiving capital outlay dollars. They say it's a sausage making process. I think they're lying about that. We can make sausage a lot easier than we can get a bill passed through capital outlay. It's an important aspect for us to have projects based off of the economics of it, the need for it, you know, local matches being, you know, allocated towards it. So it's bills like that where we can see a hard line criteria established that we can work within. I think we can be very supportive of those efforts going forward, not knowing where they will end up. So we're still monitoring. Yeah. Make sure I'm not leaving anything out. That's good. Okay. Thank y'all, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll move on to number 5, ad valorem tax millage projections. Darryl?
Gentlemen, we need to, on the agenda this afternoon, will be to adopt our millages for this coming year. The challenge always when we adopt millages is the taxable values don't come out until later in the year, but you have to adopt your millages right now. So basically we're recommending adopting the same millages as the past year for this afternoon. The two changes, one, Hackberry Fire District, 1.2 mil for a sinking fund that pays the bonds over there. Fire District number 7 is one that's 6 mil, but that we need that millage to pay the bonds, but the bonds should be ending next year, so that millage should go off the books next year. To announce those, I can announce those this morning, and then this afternoon y'all can adopt them. General fund, 3.9 mils. Health unit, we won't levy a millage. We have enough money in there to run that. Courthouse and jail, 2.64 mils. Garbage, 7.86 mils. Library, 6 mil. That tax was just renewed for 10 years. Road and bridge maintenance, 6.61 mil. Hackberry Fire District maintenance tax, 4.24. Fire Protection District number 1, 6.07. That's the old tax. A new tax for Fire Protection District number 1 maintenance was just adopted, and that is for 8 mil. Fire Protection District number 7, 3.97 mil. Fire Protection District number 9, maintenance, 2.69 mil. Fire Protection District number 10, maintenance, 8 mil. Fire Protection District number 14, 4.15 mil. Fire Protection District number 15, maintenance, 8.17 mils. Fire Protection District number 16, maintenance, 11.32 mils. Fire Protection District number 7, sinking, 6.00 mils. And Hackberry Fire Protection District number 1, sinking, 1.2 mils. There's a schedule attached that shows how much tax, how much those millage are projected to receive based on last year's assessment. So, any questions, I will address them.
Any questions? Taxes? It's on a meeting.
That is on the agenda to adopt this afternoon.
All right, good deal. Okay. Let's go to number 6, camera repairs, dump sites, non-resident usage. I got that on there. We talked about this a couple of years ago, especially in the Sweet Lake area. We have a lot of people coming out of Lake Charles, north of us, that just dumping. And every time we bring one of them dumpsters up there to get dumped, it's costing our tax money. So we need to come up with something to stop that, either some kind of cord or a sticker you put on your vehicle or something. We need to put our heads together where you gotta be a camera repair resident or own a camera repair for something. I don't know the answer. All of us together can work up with something to get us an answer to stop the out of repair dumping coming from Lake Charles. And it's really bad at Sweet Lake. I don't think it's bad. I don't know about Hack area, if y'all have any coming from Sulphur or higher, it's terrible. Yeah. I mean, we need to come up with something. I don't know whether it would be Darryl or you know, give it the legal team, something we can
I
do.
think we agreed, when you brought that item up, we kind of talked about it, because we had talked about this in the past.
Yes,
We could do it,
yeah.
and the cards that they have, that they issue at the hardware, I mean, that's pretty weak, it's not,
Yeah.
I think, Mr. Dupont, I think we need to take some time, me and Emily and us, and just to try to give you some options, you know, whether it's some kind of, you know, with a card system, because license don't work, not in the grant, I mean,
Yeah.
the 70607, the zip code doesn't work, so, we just need to see what, maybe give you some options to consider, you know, for next month, you know.
One of the things we want to be careful of, we're gonna have a lot of renters in here that are working in Cameron Parish. They need to be on household trash, okay?
Yeah.
No matter construction, waste, or anything like that. We're gonna make sure whatever we do allows that.
I mean, you can go sit over there by Sweet Lake and sit on the Paris line and just watch it coming out of Lake Charles with truck and trailers. Just steady coming down that highway.
And you're right, it costs us money, I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
it costs us money.
and so we need to, you know, there's some electronic means, we do have the funds and garbage to try to implement something, it's just what would we implement, how would we, you know, how would we control that, organize it,
There was also, you know, a while back, Township went built in some websites, kind of modeled on us, and it was horrible because of us complaining about their people not having places to go. Are their places still open?
Yes, they are.
Those dump sites are still open?
I don't know.
I know very well the drive we have.
We sign in.
Yeah, they sign everybody.
But that's the problem.
Yeah.
How can you?
but unless
So you
they,
think it tells different that you're on camera.
Right, so
I mean, when the zip code, the address, I mean, unless the guy just knows every address in the, in that area, it's just, you know, you can't, that's not a reliable system. You gotta have something in place that would be, you know, automatic. I mean, he wouldn't have to make that determination. Well, you don't live here, I mean, he's not gonna know that.
Darryl, back in the day, back before I was a juror, behind that juror there, they gave us a card. How they came to this card, I can't answer that. But there was-
Water, they
Anybody
issue.
who had a water bill got it.
That's how it comes about,
Yeah.
that card. If you had water in that area, you got a card, green card, blue card, whatever card it was.
You still have that, I mean, it's just not everybody gets one and they don't.
Well, if you wanna dump, you gotta go get one.
But we have to, you know, that'd be a public information to get out there.
But
Look, if you don't have this
could
card, you
set
don't
that
get.
up- You could set that up anywhere in the fair, you can go to the north end of the parish, and people can come to that, set it for
That'd
3
be for
days in a
anyone.
certain building, and say, you come get this card, bring that water bill, okay? I
And
mean,
then they instruct the maintenance sites.
it's whatever it is to
They
get
don't have a
it
card,
done. I
they
just
can't
knew
dump.
there was a card, I knew there was a card at one time, and I think that was controlling a lot of stuff right there.
I mean, we gotta come up with something, cause it's just costing us a fortune to dump them dumpsters and our tax money's paying for it, these guys are dumping for free. You know, so we develop, lower our taxes in any kind of way, we gotta at least cut on some of the trash coming in and out, you know.
With any kind of signage, all we have is the hours. Could we put some kind of signs that Cameron Parish residents only?
That's only for the law line.
Right, yes.
Criminals don't worry about it. I mean, I got buddies of mine calling me from Lake Charles, hey man, what day for the dump open? I said, you don't even live in Cameron, what are you worried about that for? Because they coming down here to dump it, it's real easy to get to our dump site, it's real easy to dump at our place. You know, so, I just think we need to do something so we can lower our taxes.
Doesn't have to be your ID, does it? So anybody can use this card.
So I can give you that card.
That was some of the problem we had last time when we done it, because it was doing one cord per house, and if I went, I had to have a cord, if Jerry went, he had to have a cord, or one of the kids or whatever, but that's where some of the problem ran in last time with, because they were not satisfied. They were not
I mean-
satisfied, residents and stuff, because we were only giving them one cord.
And we gotta come up with something, and I don't know what the answer is. We put our heads together, work on it for a few weeks and come up with something, let's get something done, so we can stop the out-of-towners from coming in and dumping, it's costing our people money. It's just bottom line, real simple to do, we're gonna just come up with something, whatever it is, we're gonna do it, we're gonna enforce it.
Maybe look into, even, when we fix open the brand new boat launch, we have that co-mingled with boat launch.
Well, yeah, no, we talked about that too, when you
I
don't,
don't even know something
Well,
we want.
it's got to be close to Lee, because I go to Salford to go to the spa, and I gotta pay $10, because I live in Paris, and Paris people can pay $5, so something's gotta be legal on what you can do and what you can't.
Yeah, and another thing too, I know Council Bears did that, you had to have a permit to launch it there, starting at their boat launch
Yeah.
at one time, so maybe it's something else to look at if we want to limit.
All right,
And I don't know.
yeah.
Right
Just
now-
something, Daryl, to
I
stop.
think we just need to talk about, you know, I mean, come up with an idea, see what the drawbacks are, what advantages and what, and just issue your report and something we'll just.
Okay.
Right now, in the boat launch.
We'll work
it's not
on it.
long because it's not over.
Yeah.
But I think Emily might give us an update on it.
All right, let's, we'll move on and, come up with something and bring it back to us here next meeting or so.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move to number 7, Mr. Randy Goodloe on, the completion of the courthouse.
And on this one, Mr. Dupont, there's 3 projects that we need to discuss. This is the courthouse, but Mr. Curtis Benson is there about the Hackberry Fire Station, also recommending substantial completion. And there's another project that Randy will approach on that we may have to add on. So, we're gonna take up a couple items on this one.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The first item is, of course, the courthouse. We have paperwork for you all this morning for a recommendation of acceptance and substantial completion for the project, which once the contractor submits that to the courthouse for an no-lien certificate, we'll have 45 days to wrap everything up. There is a punch list that he's been working on since we established it. But when we did the amounts on it, it's right at a little over $100,000 of work left. Of course, you know, we are very conservative with our numbers when we do a punch list. So we want, you know, to make sure that they come in and finish things, but they're ready to wrap things up, and we're gonna go look this morning when we're here. They'll have many of the items that we had established on the punch list probably complete this morning. And if you all have any questions, I don't know if everyone's walked through the building. We'll be around later after this meeting if y'all want to walk through and ask any kind of questions on that.
Y'all, all good?
I'm good.
Yeah, Lee, I've had, you know, me and Susan, the clerk's board, and the judge talked about they had I went through the punch list, if they were aware of anything, and we were all kind of in agreement as far as the, you know, what's left. I think a lot of these things have already been knocked out.
I think one of the bigger things that I seen was gonna be the plumbing above the judge's office.
Yeah, they're aware that has to get taken care of.
I'll give you some final walkthrough for inspection wise, and that's the only thing I kinda seen stopping, but I haven't done the C of O yet, but we plan to.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the contractors assured us they're gonna get the plumbing done.
I did talk to him.
Okay.
Any questions on the courthouse?
So that will be on the agenda, that is on the agenda to recommend substantial completion for this afternoon.
Okay, good deal.
What is the punch list grand total of $106,000? What's that all about? Is that just what the punch list cost to do?
Yes, I mean, well, when we establish a punch list at the end of a job like this, when I say conservative number, we'll value that estimate of the work such that if you had to hire someone else to come in and do that work, you would have enough money to cover the cost of, you know, someone starting out. So in other words, it's way higher than what this contractor can do it for. And you know, there's no anticipation of them not finishing up. It's just a normal for, you know, so they can get a substantial, and then, you know, once that happens, and you all accept the building, then his insurances and those kinds of things can get switched over, and he can finalize he has 45 days to get the no-lien certificate, and then the building's accepted.
And I can assure you, after our experience with past buildings, we will not issue a clear lien on this until everything's paid and everything is done, and pay that retainage.
Good deal. Okay.
I'm sorry.
What else?
Yeah, anybody? Daryl, you want to,
Yeah, if you could do the refrigerated space for the fisheries, if you could do that while, just to address that, because that was a contract on the Cameron Fisheries, part of the equipment project. That was a separate contract that that is not on the agenda. We would have to add it on, but they're recommending substantial completion on that phase of the contract. So I'll let Randy address that.
that first phase, that has been taking place first, a few months now, is substantial, and I think the punch list items amount to, what, 45,000, I think?
It's 45,000.
Yeah, something, I figured that was it. And here again, it's the same thing, there's if accepted, another 45-day lien period that, to finalize things. And Daryl, did you want to discuss the refrigeration aspect?
No, that's something we gotta work on.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a separate issue. It's
Right.
something we'll get together and I can give them a report next month on the
Gotcha.
fisheries.
okay.
This is this one contract that was bid out.
Right.
And that the work is near completion. So
And here again, if anyone wants to go walk through and take a look at things, we'll be here until your next meeting to be able to do that for you.
So on that one, I will ask y'all to add that to the agenda, because we didn't get that until the other day. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In addition to completions, Mr. Curtis Benson is here to talk about the Hackberry Fire Station. That one is on the agenda for this afternoon as well.
Good morning. The first thing I'd like to discuss is we have a change order. We had the water pipe coming to service into the building. What we had specified was perfectly legal, used all around the country, but the water district didn't like it. So they wouldn't let us hook up what we had specified, so we had to go to the ethylene pipe that they wanted. And in fact, the work's already been done because we couldn't move forward unless we did it. That change order is for, let's see, put my glasses on. $6,215.07. We really had no choice. They had a special meeting just to tell us we couldn't hook up the water unless we put in this pipe. So the district, Mike Welsh and Mark Ranger, who seem to be my liaisons to meet with, they told us to go ahead and do it, so we did it. So we really had no choice for that. Like I said, the work has been done. The first thing I would ask for y'all is to approve that. We can't do the substantial completion until you approve that, so.
And in talking to the fire board, the fire board is good with this. This is on the agenda in advance of the substantial completion to accept this, to complete the project. So other than that, it's just, you recommend acceptance of it, Curtis?
Yes, I do.
You have that. Just to, on another note, that if you can talk about the contractor wanting some additional days and your recommendation on that, because.
Well, the 139?
Yes.
Right, he did ask for his additional days. I think he had maybe 27 in the spring, and I denied those. We did give him some rainy days early on last winter when it was terrible. We did approve that at the time, but the last ones he asked for, I denied that. I think it was 27. I've got it in the packet that I've given Daryl.
And I just asked because we did get a request from him for some additional days, and Mr. Vincent he does not recommend approval of those, and it would lead to liquidated damages.
Well, I am going to recommend some liquidated damages, and after you approve the change order, then I'll discuss the substantial completion of that.
Okay, so those items are on the agenda for this afternoon. So, unless there's any questions, Dino, you're good with that up there?
Okay. All right, thanks, sir.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Garza.
okay, move on. I've given, Mr. Williams just to tell you all, the fire marshal, just to kind of give you a little background, I am recommending, acceptance and substantial completion. The fire marshal actually, came on May the 3rd and approved everything. I think everything's been approved as far as that goes. He gave us permission to, occupy the building. I couldn't do substantial on May the 3rd because CenterPoint was so late in getting the gas meter hooked up. So CenterPoint didn't get the thing set up till May the 3rd. And that, I would have recommended substantial completion at that time, but we couldn't test the the water heater, the stove, that type of thing, because we didn't have any gas, because that is all gas. Anyway, I'm finally setting substantial completion as May the 7th, when I think they were substantially complete. Of course, it's not official till y'all act on it today. Bottom line is that I think Mr. Creel was 7 days over, and I'm recommending $500 a day for $3,500 a day in damages, which would be deducted from his final payment.
And not to get, I didn't mean to get ahead of that, Curtis, that was part of what we were talking about. So I think those recommended additional days are in that change order, I believe, correct?
Well, I did give them some days because of the water line, because, construction came to a halt because we couldn't put the water line in, so I think.
So this just recommended as of this date, the substantial completion, and then anything after that is.
Right, well.
Okay.
I was kind of stopping time on the 7th because I think that's when he was really through with the building. Now, we actually met with the fire board this last Monday night. I think there were about 7 or 8 of them there. We did kind of walk through the air conditioning. People came, demonstrated how to change the filters, how the air conditioning system works. They went through everybody how the doors work. The doors are a little bit special. Just kind of had a walk through and make sure everybody's comfortable with, how to operate the building. So I didn't let them put any trucks in the building until y'all act on it.
Any questions?
I think everything's on the agenda that we need to, except we need to add that refrigerated space for the fisheries, that substantial completion, and I thank these guys for coming up here.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to number 8, Kiewit, traffic issues on Davis Road.
And Mr. DuPont, we have a request from Kiewit concerning public safety and security out there, and they're here to explain what their request was that they need us to address.
Okay.
Morning. My name is Ryan Bean. I'm the Site Services Project Manager with Kiewit. Thank you for letting us request this, make this request. So what we're asking for is to change the temporary location of the closure along Davis Road to the north of where it currently is, which would be about a half mile south of LA 27. As you know, this is a huge project. There's about 300 to 400 people out there. We started 6 weeks ago, and a year from now, it's going to be about 3,000 people. And so picture 10 times the growth of what we're seeing now, trucks and vehicles and deliveries coming and going. The reason that we're making this request is two-part, but primarily public safety. With the high level of traffic and so much of our materials coming in off the water at the marine offload facilities, those get loaded onto trucks. They go down Davis and enter the site in one of 3 different ways. And so to identify a couple of those quantities, there's 10,000 loads of cement coming out of the Martin facility. There's 26,000 loads of batch concrete coming out of Martin also. And there's 20,000 individual piling, 120 foot long, on individual custom trailers coming out of the Liberty facility, which is the furthest one to the north. And so all of those, they're not normal traffic. These are oversized, big, heavy loads. And we want to be able to control those behind a checkpoint. In addition to the high level of traffic on the road, to turn people around at the point of abandonment where it currently is, further to the south, there's not really a good place to turn around. So moving that north, identifying folks that need to be turned around and safely headed back north, we think the spot that we've identified allows them to do that. In addition to the public safety, there's a security component. Without having one checkpoint further north, there's roughly 7 spots where we would have to manage people coming and going into the MOF facilities and also into the site itself and into the parking locations. And if we're, controlling one point is obviously better than controlling all 7. And so if we can identify people at that one point, we'll help with the security aspect as well. And most of the people that are having to be turned around, it's just an honest mistake or lack of communication, not knowing what the current status is, that the project is going on, and we politely get them turned back around. But when we grow to 3,000 people, odds are there's going to be people that show up with bad intentions, and that's who we're really focusing on identifying at this revised checkpoint. There are 3 privately operated facilities that we've communicated with and that are on board with some sort of badging, communication program to let their employees through. EcoServe, New Park Drilling Fluids, and Halliburton, and any other approved, government contractor. If you need to do maintenance on any facilities, obviously we'll make all those accommodations. And so that is our request. And if there's any questions?
Now, we're gonna go through the process of,
Yeah, in discussions with Mr. Tom Barrett, he had advised that this can be done by act of the jury, but it needs to be done through an ordinance. So on the agenda for this afternoon is part of the request. There were 2 separate requests. One was to reduce the speed limit on that section of public road on Davis Road from 45 to 25, and that's a public hearing process. And the other one is for this temporary restriction, during the construction phase. And I need to get with Mr. Barrett to finish the ordinance, what that would be. But then that would be a public notice process, and people would get the right to comment, at that time when we have it. So.
okay, I'm good with that.
Looking at this equipment gonna run up down the road, we're gonna have some kind of clause in there about our highway, our Paris Road.
It's bonds.
Yeah,
It's licensed bonded, but, right?
yeah.
But the contractor needs to understand that anytime the oversized load you mentioned on public road, and they start tearing up the road, you need to be proactive in correcting the road
Right.
problems. We don't want to, in other words, when this goes away, we don't want to be left with a poor road.
Absolutely, yeah.
And being proactive is the best way. You tear, if something starts to tear up, patch it, always works better than just let it go until the end and try to patch it.
Absolutely, and it's certainly in our best interest to keep the
Right,
road
right,
open
right.
and functioning and safe and.
Right. And if you are doing patchwork on that section, because it failed, you'll need to get with our superintendent to make sure that they're aware of how you're patching that it's the best recommendation.
Okay.
If you don't mind. I
Not at
mean,
all.
that would just keep them in the loop, for us getting it patched. Put all that in there.
And y'all, the 4x4s or whatever you want to call them, side by side, are illegal on Parish Road
Correct.
without the sticker, insurance, and a licensed driver. I mean, none of them have a sticker.
I don't
What I seen.
Okay.
Just.
I'll check.
I had to follow one all the way to Gulf Coast Supply.
We're not here to force them all, that's up to the sheriff.
I just want to let them know.
Yeah.
Just bring it back, let them know.
Okay, any more questions about
One more question I got, I think you answered already, but the local businesses that were already there, are they gonna be in any way inconvenienced?
No, they'll have a color tag of some sort and we'll let them run on through.
And as far as the people that don't belong to the road, you put a good signage up in the front?
Mhm. Yeah, we'll beef up the signage and we're open to suggestions if somebody sees something and we want to do it differently. But yeah, we definitely want to communicate that as early as we can.
I think a lot of that traffic, people come from all over to go down that scenic byway. look at the birds or whatever, and they're so used to going there, go down there,
Mhm.
go to the field cheer or whatever.
So are they gonna, these businesses gonna have priority? Or y'all gonna shut up, make them follow these tractors instead of waiting?
It's a single lane. I mean, it's a single lane, and so everybody just files in.
Well, it's 2-lane highway.
Well, it's one way in, one way out. So if they're trying to get in or out, there's no other route to put them on. They'll have, I mean, they're not gonna have to wait,
Truck till they get to
pretty
their
much,
destination and turn
pretty
off.
much.
And basically, in the event of a bunch of complaints, it needs to be turned back over to a regular Paris Road, if they can't get in and out these big businesses, my opinion.
But Kirk, we got, I mean, the same thing goes on with Food Show, they got big loads coming in, the heavy lift,
Yeah.
we're behind them, and we just gotta follow behind them to get to our destination and turn
I
off.
was looking at all this equipment they're running, it's all oversized. Big dump, the earth dump trucks and the big tractors, they're all,
Those go from the mosque to the site, but there's, you know, any delivery coming in down the public road would be a legal load.
All right, any more questions? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
And that's on the vote meeting for the.
Those two items, to run those public notices for the speed limit and for a temporary restriction ordinance.
All right, good deal. All right, number 9, Bradley Pousson, Great Shooting Club, okay.
Good morning, gentlemen. I had spoken with a couple of y'all to kind of get some ideas. We're looking for another location to house our shooting sports club. And the main reason being is we have equipment available to us, but we cannot leave it there permanently where we're currently at. What I'm asking, or I guess proposing to the jury, is if we can set up a location, and I had sent it to Miss Marion, I think she put that in y'all's packets, behind the mosquito control barn here in Creole, and it's already mapped out where the range, potential range, I guess, say would go. So I guess what I'm asking is, would this be okay, or how would do y'all have any questions about this?
Where's your current location at now?
We are on the front ridge. It was a same place we've been shooting since.
I don't know if you had another place.
No, that's been it.
This is all supervised? This is all supervised?
Yes, sir.
It's not an open range for just somebody to go back there and shoot?
No, sir. It is strictly for 4-H use.
Brad, that you have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Mistake, I think there's some livable ones or something in that area.
Oh, really? No, that I did not, but,
I had Shane go look at it yesterday, so we may have to figure it out.
okay. That was just on Google Maps when I looked, and I just kind of drove by. I didn't walk out there or nothing. I just kind of get a feeling for it. And again, if y'all had another location in mind, or whatever the case may be, I'm more open to ideas.
And you far enough away and all that, all this,
Correct. Far enough on.
good.
And I'll get with Miss Emily and Mr. Shane, and we can, and we'll determine the location and that, so.
All right, good deal.
We just need to do something in writing for
Yeah. And insurance is not an issue. We have our own special insurance that we have to have. You have a shooting club, so.
You will have to have, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you that too, Mr. Darrell. I'll send you the policy and all that, so.
All right. All right, thank you, sir.
Do I need to show up tonight, or y'all got to put it tonight, or?
Yep. No, we're good.
Thank y'all.
All right, thank you. All right, road project, Ms. Emily.
Yes, sir. Last month, y'all had asked me to go out and get with an engineer to see about putting a road project together for each police store in the district. And I do have Gary here for any questions that y'all may have with us moving forward. It is just a draft right now.
How's it going, gentlemen?
Doing good.
Have y'all have any questions about the project in general?
What did you do, Jerry? You went out and did basically?
We went out, took some measurements, double checking lengths, widths, and existing conditions of the roadway as to what type of to what limit we need to do for the overlay project. So we have most of the field data already in-house. We're just waiting on final approval to complete the project. So we gave y'all a rough draft, the only thing we don't.
Sir,
I mean,
you won't be able to get you won't be able to get a price until you bid the project.
Correct, and as of right now, off of past projects and everything, I think we're gonna be well within the budget, that was assigned for the project, or I was told for the project. Right at 2 million, correct? Yes, sir.
It's on the agenda for this afternoon for y'all to vote on it, for us to go out on
go out
bid.
to bid.
Yes, sir.
Everybody good with that? Everybody good with it?
All the roads are on
Yeah, you told me to do it. All right.
Yes, sir.
Everybody good? Any more questions, Gary?
Just go out for bid. That's it.
Oh, yes.
To complete the project, to complete the design and go out for bid, yes.
We're gonna have to come back down the road.
Accept. Right, you just go out for bid.
If you go out for bid and it fits within the budget, you'll have to accept it.
Okay, if it's within the budget.
You'll have to accept it.
Right. Okay. Everybody good with it, on the agenda for the afternoon, go on. All right, thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Yeah, you gotta, you gonna give us an update on
Yes, sir, you want it now?
that? Well, I don't know if it's anywhere else.
No, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, on the Grand Lake boat launch, we are completed at this time. One of the things that we have to do before we can open it up, Energy is having to come set some poles, for the electric, the lighting to get out there, for safety issues before we can actually open it up. And that should be done within the next 2 weeks, I was told this morning.
Okay. That's good.
So,
On job, commend, all the crew for what I saw so far.
Thank you. Thank you. I do have one other thing I'd like to say. I know it's not on the agenda, it has nothing to do with that, but we got a letter from Dee Dee Sanders at the Cameron Library. When we were out there, we had two guys out there washing the building down and stuff, and they could see some smoke coming from the side of the building. And whenever they went in and they shut them down, and we got James Gaspar to come and stuff. Anyway, she sent a letter, so I would like to commend Kim Richard and James Gaspar and Dane Daywin. Without that, the wires were melting in the wall. They probably would have lost their building. So, at the Cameron Library. Yeah, the new library. Yeah. So if we wouldn't have been there watching it, I don't know what would have took place with the building. The building was smoking. They thought it was from the cleaning at first, but it was the building. So, yes, sir.
All right. Moving on to number 11. Glenn Harris, MOU with U.S. Fisheries and Wildlife Service, Cameron Prairie.
Thank y'all for letting me be here today and address y'all. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to look through the letter that was sent for the Creole Nature Trail All-American Road. We've been working on a project with them. They actually put in for a grant approximately a year and a half ago, and they're moving through the process. Only to find out later on that to qualify, we actually need assistance in the maintenance of this road outside of Fish and Wildlife Service. And the letter addresses in there that what the Creole Nature Trail is requesting is periodic grading or grading of the road and all that. And if you don't have a copy of the letter or the draft MOU, which currently is in our regional office, which has to go through our regional office review for signature and all. And what we're asking is that any assistance the police jury could give to us and all that would benefit also the Creole Nature Trail and Fish and Wildlife Service. There's some needed repairs on the Pintail Wildlife Drive. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to drive around the Wildlife Drive, but it's a pretty popular destination for a lot of people utilizing the Creole Nature Trail. And even under current conditions, the road right at the beginning has actually got some water over the road currently. And what we propose to do is elevate that first section of the road and then re-rock the entire drive on there. And the assistance that we're requesting of the police jury is the periodic grading of the Pintail Walnut Drive. So any consideration you can give would be very much appreciated.
That's
So-
that gotta be kind of similar what we do at Sabine by maintaining that, those pullovers. Still maintain pullovers and.
That's on the board meeting this evening, Darrell?
Yes.
Yes, sir. All right, thank y'all very much.
All right, all right, let's review our agendas.
On the review, Mr. Dupont, I would, part of one of the items on the agenda, and there are some people here to address them, is about abandoning some right-of-ways, out there on the Davis Road. That would require an abandonment of, if there's any questions here, there's some representatives from, discuss what those, abandonments are about. So just to, where everybody will know. So Shane, if you could come through, just let us know what you're trying to do.
Good morning, gentlemen. Shane Sandifer with Key Miller. Any questions on this? You want me to run through the items on the agenda?
If you don't mind, Shane, just where those locations are and what the reasons, the need for the abandonments are.
Sure. So there are 4 items listed on the agenda. The first being the lease for the public boat launch that is located a little bit south of the portion of abandoned roadway for Davis Road. I think y'all recall in March, y'all abandoned Davis Road from a certain point down. That boat launch no longer has public access due to cutting that off. And that is also the location of the future development for Venture Global. So we're trying to get that lease off the public records in the property records. The next 2 items were right-of-ways for Davis Road that went all the way further south to the Gulf. In fact, if you look at historical records, the rights-of-way go past where the actual lease is with the jetty pier. So the purpose of this, in fact, the purpose for all of this is cleaning up the public records, more specifically the property records. For that right-of-way, and as more detailed in the public notice, Davis Road will still exist for a certain distance, and the way we have the public notice drafted and ultimately what we will do in a public record is file a document that says from this point south, which is very clear to document, in relationship to documents of the public record already. So effectively, Davis Road has been abandoned from a certain point on. What this is doing is just going to allow us to tie this to some right-of-ways that were granted in 1961 and 1962 for the original rights-of-way for Davis Road, to partially cancel those. Any questions on those so far? And the third one was a 1962 right-of-way for cleaning out a ditch/stream that is located where the facility is being located. We did some research. We were unable to locate where that actually was or is. So obviously that drainage clean out right is no longer needed by the police jury. So we were going to get that notice to be released and terminated in the public records. So that's it. Any questions?
No, and we did research, Emily, some of the old people, this old Rogers Bayou is what this is referred to as. It's probably clean, it's probably built in or whatever, it's not, so. I just wanted them to come up there and explain, because we're going to, with approval of those, this is a public notice process to abandon these. And Joe, to help, this is to work with everybody, we'll have a special meeting June 18th, after the 30 days to actually take these abandonments up.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted everybody, last week, Austin Miller, police George, commander of my boss, 15, Mr. George LaBeouf. I'd just like to know that
family know that we appreciate everything he did.
And we will be taking action at the next meeting, Terry, to honor his,
Okay, that's great. Any questions on the agenda?
Yeah. I gotta show you now. I just got some wording issues.
Any questions on the agenda? Besides, Lee, tell them the question is.
Well, we're gonna be authorized and president to sign a resolution indicating to replace Ryan as the director. On a board. And represent, are we gonna, it's all this board, LCDA board. I understood we was gonna be appointing Katie to do that. Oh, we're not doing that. This is
to represent the parish on this board.
I understand that. But I thought we was doing it's not on here. No, I understand it's not on here. I was just saying, I thought we was doing that. Until the first of the year. No, it's not on here, is what I'm asking.
It's not on there, so we got the agenda made. Is there any other question you got about the agenda? That's not on there, so we're gonna move ahead without that on there.
I'm just trying to clear it up.
There is one thing I had some constituents in y'all's districts wanted to raise the speed limit on the road. They asked me, and I told them what my district, I could bring it up to y'all, it's 10 road, they want to bring the speed limit up to 35, it's 25 now. I said, all I can do is bring it up in the meeting. So I'm gonna bring it up to y'all, if y'all want to put it on here, go out to public comment, see what the public says, or if y'all want to leave it alone, or let the public,
No, I like, if you know who they are, I'd like you to give us a phone number, your contact, and we'll go meet them and
Yeah, see what themselves, talk to them, see what the deal is, and go from there. If they still want to do it, just put it on here and go from there.
Right, so tickets out there on the That's probably what we have been writing tickets out.
yeah, there's been a lot of things being written.
Well, yeah, they speeding down the road, now they want to change the speed limit, so they can speed a little faster, because if the speed limit is 25, and speeding 35, you put 35, they'd be doing 45.
4 o'clock in the morning, there's nobody on the road, and they head to work.
Well, they're not, they don't write tickets now, they're writing tickets now.
I'm just saying, it's the people in the parish, not.
Okay, we'll talk to them, we'll get with them and have a little meeting and talk with them. So, any other questions on the agenda? Everybody good with it? Darryl, y'all good?
If y'all have any questions, we have people here that will be available to answer any questions. And I asked Mr. Goodlow and them to be available to, if y'all want to go look at the courthouse, to make sure if y'all have any questions regarding that substantial completion and punch list. So that's it for me. I just do an I mean, we will be adding on add-ons, Cameron Fisheries, substantial completion on refrigeration. Do I have any,
Add that on.
just that, is that it?
Yeah, we don't have on, we got this down.
Okay, that's it.
Everybody good?